I'm Mo. It is April and I thought it was a good time to do the quarter year crisis tag. This tag was started by Roisin'd and I first saw it on Hannah May's channel. This kind of goes along with the mid-year book tag and the end of the year book tag, so now we have 3 tags. I thought that was a cute idea. I like the idea of checking in with your reading kind of early on. So let's go ahead and get started with the questions. The first question is, how many books have you read so far this year? So far in 2022, I have read 36 books. So I am almost halfway to my goal of 75, and that's definitely more books than I've ever read in the beginning of the year before. I read so many books in January and February, and a lot of books in March, and I'm on a good start in April, so I'm very happy about that. Question number 2 is, have you read any favorites? I'm doing this kind of blind. I didn't get my stack of books or anything. Right off the top of my head, some of the books that stand out to me are Piranesi, which I just finished, The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. That one was really great, an uplifting queer book about a young gay man finding drag. I read The Chrysalids by John Wyndham, which is a modern classic or classic sci-fi book. I've never read any John Wyndham before, and I just thought that his book was amazing and I can't wait to read more. I've also read a lot of great books by people of color and especially by women of color this year. But do I have like a favorite? Not yet, I don't think. Piranesi's pretty far up there and The Chrysalids is pretty far up there, but I haven't had any that I'm like, yes, amazing, my favorite. Question number 3 is, have you read any 1-star books this year? There were definitely a couple of books, again, that I didn't love. The Dream Quest of Velvet Bow, published by Tor, and I can't remember the author's name, was a weird book that didn't really work for me that much. I didn't love some of the mysteries that I read in March, but there was none that I've read so far this year that I really have disliked. I find that, like Bob the Booker, most of the books that I read I enjoy in some form or another. There are some that I definitely like more and I gravitate towards more, or are more my style, or I think are better written, but almost every book, even books that I don't love, I can find something good about. Question number 4 is, what has been your most read genre? Right now, my most read genre has been literary fiction, which is a little bit surprising, but a lot of the books that I read in February fall into that category. A lot of the books that I've read by people of color would fit into that category, like Alice Walker's The Third Life of Grange Copeland or Gloria Naylor's The Women of Brewster Place. Then followed pretty closely afterwards would be mystery and sci-fi fantasy. I've read about the same amount of both mystery and sci-fi fantasy so far this year, and that is no surprise. Literary fiction is a little bit of a surprise to me because that usually isn't my most read genre, but mysteries, yes. Sci-fi, yes. Question number 5, a book that surprised you. Definitely, I would say that The Women of Brewster's Place surprised me because it's basically damaged my brain and I have a lot of trauma over that book. I still have nightmares about it. I enjoyed it and I'm excited to read more Gloria Naylor. I have 2 more Gloria Naylor books to read, but that book kind of broke my brain. So not necessarily a good surprise, but definitely a surprise. I was never expecting to have such a strong and extreme reaction to that book. The next question is a 2022 release that you have not yet read but would like to. So I don't read a lot of new releases. I have quite a few 2021 release books that I want to read, which I haven't yet, which is surprising for me. Even having only 1-year-old books on my TBR is a little surprising because I'm usually really going through backlist books almost exclusively. But one book that has caught my eye that I really want to read is Katrina Ward's Sundial. That sounds amazing. I keep hearing people talk about it. It's definitely going to end up on on my 22 books I found out about in 2022 but I want to read in 2023 list when that gets made, unless I get to read it in 2022. You never know. It's always possible. Question number 7 is a 2022 goal that you made that's succeeding. I wrote a couple of things down here, and one of them is to keep track of my recently acquired books. One of my goals in 2022 was to make sure I was logging every book that I brought into the house, where that book came from, and how much it cost. So I have a spreadsheet where I have listed all those things. I also keep track on that spreadsheet of certain things like if that book was translated, as well as when I made a video about it, as well as how many books I've read each month, and in what month or at what time I've read each book that I've read off the list so far. So far, as of March, I've hauled I think I've hauled over 65 books already, but I've only read 3 of the books that I've hauled. Obviously, I've read quite a few books, about half of that in that time, so those were books that were already on my TBR, not books that are new to my TBR, but I'm definitely hoping to read some of those new to my TBR books soon, or as soon as possible. Does that make sense? Another goal that I think obviously has been succeeding is my number goal for reading. I picked 75 because I read 95 books in 2021, which is probably the most books I've ever read in a year. I thought 75 was a good number, but since I'm almost halfway there, I think I'm crushing that goal. I also think a goal that is succeeding right now is reading more diversely. I think I have read a good number of works by people of color, of works from other countries, of translated works, and so I'm happy with where I am now. That number can always increase. I would also like to read more books by queer people and the LGBTQIA+ world, but even that I have been reading quite a few of, so I think I'm doing pretty well. Question number 8 is name a 2022 goal that you need to focus on. So one that you haven't been doing as well on. I think one that I haven't been doing as well on is I really wanted to do 30-day challenges. I had all these ideas for things that I could do in 30-day intervals and put on the channel. Some of them had to do with reading, some of them had to do with life, some of them had to do with fun, and I haven't done a single one of those. I've started several, but I haven't committed to doing the 30 full days, so they haven't really gone anywhere. That is something that I would love to focus on for the remaining 3/4 of the year, and I would still like to do for this channel and for myself. Another goal that I haven't really worked on is reading romance. So last year in 2021, I discovered that I like romance and I wanted to read more. I have picked up a few romance books, and I'm kind of hoping that May will be a good romance month for me because I plan on reading quite a bit of horror in May, so it would be nice to balance it out with some romance as well. 2 romance books just popped up on one of the audio sites that I liked, so I'm definitely planning on reading those 2, but you'll have to wait and find out what they are when I read them. The last question is name some new to you bookish creators that you would recommend. I haven't found a ton of new booktubers this year so far, but there are a few that definitely stand out. One of them is Read by Fred. His channel is really chill. It's really calming. I like that he always does like a drinking coffee or tea thumbnail, and his thumbnails and his videos are just extremely like recognizable right away, which I definitely admire. It's something that I'm working on, and so I appreciate that although he's a new creator, he's like already got that down. He also reads a lot of history and science books and heavy kind of academic style texts, but he talks about them in a really enthusiastic and interesting way. So whereas I might not read a lot of those texts, I definitely like hearing his take on them and his synopsis of them when he's finished. He reads a lot of sci-fi, which I like, and a lot of classic sci-fi and horror and things like that. He's about to read Frankenstein, and I'm super excited to see what he thinks of it. Another young content creator I've found recently is Kay's Palette. She does really fun, chill videos. She does some vlogs and tags, and she does a wrapped up version. So she's wrapped a bunch of her books and then she'll unwrap them randomly and do a reading vlog on them, which I really love that concept and I like her take on it. And then finally, one that I have been following for a little while but I've just started really getting into is Sarah from Freshly Read Books. I love her channel. She's a friend, an acolyte, a contemporary of Katie Books, and they do a ton of Booker Prize stuff together, International Booker Prize. They just make a lot of hilarious videos together, which I think is so cool because on their own channels individually are great and I love watching both of them individually, but then also seeing them come together is so fun, and you get to learn more about them and more about their personality and more about their reading habits, and it's just such a great idea. It's such a great concept, and they're also obviously so genuinely friends that it just gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling. I love Sarah's book reviews because they are short and sharp and to the point. They're just so compelling, even if I don't want to read the books. She's definitely turned me away from several of the Booker International books, but I just think that goes to illustrate how great of a reviewer she is, because in 6, 7, 10 minutes, she's able to get across whether you are going to like this book or not. She gives so much information about the book without giving anything away, and normally without having any spoilers. If she does have spoilers, she lets you know, but usually it's just from her explanation of it that I can tell whether I want to read one or not. She's a great one to go and check out. Those are 3 content creators that I'm really enjoying lately, and those are also 3 content creators that I will tag in this tag. I don't think that there's a tag people in this tag, but I think this is a really fun one to do and a good way to think about the initial start, the first couple of months, 3 months of your 2022 reading or of your yearly reading. So Read by Fred, Kay's Palette, and Freshly Read Books. If you would like to do this tag, please feel free. Obviously, if you have not been tagged in this tag yet, consider yourself tagged by me as well, or leave your answers to these questions in the comments down below. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.